Hey there, this is Doug Smith. I am going to be covering this chapter on surveys and wanted to, number one, let you know we're going to cover the three types of surveys, way to remember them, and then we'll do a little bit of a quiz afterwards to incorporate what we've learned to see if it makes sense. So first off, there's three types of surveys. There's a lot and block, meets and bounds, and government survey system, which has a synonym name, rectangular survey system. Whenever you see a map or plat, that's going to go with lot and block, which is the most common. Whenever you see terminal points and angles, that's going to go with meets and bounds, and you'll see and hear about a monument. And when you talk about the government survey system or rectangular survey system, that's going to talk about a grid overlay, kind of like the game You Sank My Battleship. You go B4 and you have ranges and townships. So ranges are north-south and townships are east-west along a grid. And that's going to be for Wyoming, Montana. It's the Wild West, the Western frontier, pre-colonial days, the 1780s. So we're not going to see that in the DFW area, the government survey system, or its synonym name, rectangular survey system. So a good way to kind of know the history of the three surveys is back when the country was formed, the population was up in the Northeast, and rural America was basically anything west of the 13 colonies. And the government needed to explore the West to break up the population and not have it so dense up in the Northeast. So they gave people opportunities to move westward. And when they moved westward, they went into Wyoming, Texas, Oklahoma. And at that time, they had the government survey systems because the land was so ginormous that they had to put a grid overlay over the land to use coordinates to find out where the actual house was and where the demarcation lines were, because the land was so huge. So this is like, 600 and 700 acres of land. And so it was called the government survey system. It was rural, which was about 97% of America. It was Wyoming, Montana, the Dakotas. It's where Dances with Wolves, Last of the Mohicans, and the TV series Yellowstone. If you had to describe land back in those movies, it would be absolutely government survey system. Over time, the government needed to urbanize America. And what I think almost single-handedly urbanized America was Walmart. And if you know a little history about retail, in the beginning we had Montgomery Wards, and I'm 53 years old. Back when I was little, a van would pull down your street and unload toys because you would order them out of a magazine, because most of America was rural. And at the time, a guy named Sam Walton worked at Montgomery Wards, and he had the idea of making a regional store where people could be strategically located, urbanized, and have a store that they could go to that would provide shopping and food and clothes and outdoor activities. So Walmart really, in my opinion, urbanized America. So when you see Walmart, you want to think of urbanized. When you see Last of the Mohicans, you want to think of government survey system or rectangular survey system. So as America started to be urbanized, the most common, which is now the case, the most common survey is the lot and block. And that's what you're most likely going to see in the DFW area. You're going to see Lot 5, Block J, Crystal Creek Subdivision, City of Plano, Collin County, 75024, known as 123 Easy Street. That is a lot and block description, and it's going to have a map or a plat. To foil that, we have on the other side the government survey system, which is not rural, but like super almost uncivilized land. It's going to be up in the Montanas and the Wyomings, and it's going to be so big they need a grid system. In between there, we have something called a meets and bounds. And if any of the students that are watching live out in Gunner, Pottsboro, possibly Rockwall County, Royce City, it could be that you live on what's called a meets and bounds. That's going to have terminal points and angles. And there's usually a word that you'll see when there's a description of a meets and bounds, and that's going to be monuments. Monuments are about 1.5 feet in length. The width is about the size of a pencil, and they're made of iron. and they're hammered in the corners of the property line, about 3 inches below the grass line, so a mower doesn't hit it when they mow. And it's how a surveyor can tell where the demarcation lines are on a property. And there's going to be terminal points and angles with the meets and bounds. But there's one phrase that you should always remember that will give away a meets and bounds as an answer, or once you become a licensed realtor, or if you get any kind of real estate industry and you're looking at a survey, if you see the phrase beginning at, starting at, beginning at a starting point, starting at a beginning point, that's going to be a huge giveaway that it's a meets and bounds. And that's going to be for rural living, like Gunner, Pottsboro, Tom Bean, Royce City, Rockwall County, but it's not going to be Wyoming or the Montanas. That's going to be for a government survey system. So remember, Dancing with Wolves, Last of the Mohicans, Yellowstone, government survey system, rectangular survey system. Land that's so big you need a grid overlay to determine where it's going to go, or how to locate the house. And the north-south lines on the grids are called ranges, and the east-west are called townships. And then you have meets and bounds. It's going to be terminal points and angles. It's going to be Gunner, Royce City, Rockwall County. And then you're going to have what's most common in a urban development. For instance, if you went into a subdivision with 220 houses, a community pool, elementary school, it's going to most likely be a lot and block. So I hope that is a good explanation of the lot and block. And we're at about 6 minutes and 45 seconds. So in the remaining time, I just wanted to do a little bit of a quiz verbally. And that would be, if I said Last of the Mohicans, would you pick lot and block, meets and bounds, or government survey system? If I said Walmart single-handedly made this the most common survey, what would you say? If I said terminal points and angles, what would that answer be? If I said beginning at a point, starting at a point, starting at a beginning point, beginning at a starting point, what survey would that be? And those are just about 3 or 4 questions that would help you get through a chapter on surveys. I hope you found this informative. Y'all have a great day.